spring camp number 3 in the books.
Yeah.
Is it weird to think that it's year 3?
It has not been fast. You know, the pain of losing, the pain of, frankly, humiliation of the poor performances in the first 2 years feels like an eternity. You know, this year definitely has this, say, from the end of the season till post-spring, has been enjoyable. It's been exciting. We feel like we've made the changes we need to make in the building and with the team. And we have optimism coming out of spring. But it still lingers. You know, I was pretty optimistic going into last season too. So trying to keep a more maybe wise approach on where we're at and what we need to accomplish before the season kicks off. But no, this has been a tough 2.5 years. But 2.5 I wouldn't trade for anything, because I think it's made me a better coach, a better person, a better leader. And hopefully we see the fruit of that growth this year.
Before spring camp, you and I were talking at the volleyball courts about there's been some honest conversations with the coaches to the players. What does that mean? And how much honesty were you giving to your players ahead?
So I think, you know, this narrative around college football money leads to every other conversation. And I think that's what, as an ex-professional athlete, and then somebody that, you know, was on TV for 9 years talking about professional athletes, it's been my comfort zone. It's like when I left high school football, well, I left the NFL world and went start coaching. I was an alien in that world. Got up to speed, learned that world. Then I went to college football and I was kind of an alien in that world. Well, now we're in my world. We're in professional athletics. They can call it whatever they want to call it. This is professional football now. When a player gets a salary, which they're getting, there comes a set of expectations and standards with that, and a new approach to coaching that player. Hence why I brought all these NFL coaches. So you asked about honest conversations. These are what we're calling professional conversations, because now you have professional standards. So the honesty is more, hey, you're here to get a degree, to be a great citizen, to add to this institutional value, but to play football too. That's why every month money hits your checking account. So with that comes a certain set of standards and expectations and truth telling within that conversation. One of those was, as the portal was coming up and everybody's freaking about losing their players, go ahead, leave. We'll go get the other one. You know, it's not like you have 72 offers from every SEC and Big Ten school. So do you want us more than we want you? You know, there's that kind of yin yang too. It's like, we have 3,000 kids in the portal that we can choose from. To think that you're that much better than those 3,000 is delusional. So we know we're building this team from May 19th until the first part. That winter was a bonus. If you were here in the winter, that was a bonus. Those are honest conversations that happen in the NFL, you know, and that's basically the world they're in. So it has worked. The kids are like, this is refreshing. We're not getting BS'd. You know, they're telling me exactly where I stand. You're a developmental player that has a chance to contribute this year. Therefore, this is your rev share. Check. We're planning you to be a blue player. A blue player is a win because of starter, right? A win because of starter, a blue player makes this amount of money. We expect that performance every single day. We expect that preparation as a blue player. You're a gold player? A gold player is a transformational player to your program. His value is much higher than a blue player. His paycheck's much higher than a blue player. We expect gold standard from you every single moment of every single day. Off the field, in the classroom, in the weight room, in the training room, in pre-practice, in the meeting room. Because why? You're being paid as a gold player. People think that's harsh, but it's refreshing for the kid. We have the best culture we've ever had because it's honest, it's truthful, and there's none of this, you're playing me, I'm playing you. You need me more than I need you. No, this is the deal. Perform to the standard, or you won't get paid. And you go, somebody else will, but we won't.
You mentioned it's a freshman culture and it's been different than years past. How was it maybe different from on the field? Did you guys do anything different in the spring? Because I know when you were mentioning to me earlier in December, last time we spoke, I'm going to go try to find nutrition things. I'm going to go try to find strength training. Are we giving them the most output there? Was there differences on the field as well in the spring?
We literally turned over every stone. I mean, one of the moves of making Lyle the assistant head coach was being able to me and him sit down and just tear apart every part of the program. And I really leaned on him for what things Bill did really well that I haven't done well. And I really just opened my arms and said, Lyle, you tell me anything. Like, I'm willing to change anything if we can win. Bringing in fresh faces in the coaching staff and say, here's the way we do things. Do you have a better way? Like, this is the way I've done it. Find the flaws. Existing coaches, your Alex Mortensons. Okay, Alex, if there's anything you've held back on saying for 2 years, tell me now. I want to blow the thing up, redo it, and make it best. So we did that. And what came out of it was just more intentionality per player, maybe a more specific plan for each player. Instead of grouping them in, the position group's going to do this way, or the unit's going to do this way, or the offense is going to do this way, or the defense is going to do this way. No, let's look at every person's makeup, and let's see how we can maximize every person's potential, their training, their preparation, whether that be nutrition or hydration or whatever. And then you have some limitations too. It's on the player as well. Like, we can give you a plan, but you got to go follow the plan. Like, they've been gone for us for 2 weeks. We told them what to do when they left. We'll find out in a week when they get back whether they did it or not, you know? So you got to trust them as adults, young adults too, that if we give them this information, that they can go execute it on their own as well.
With UAB's NIL Collective, is that still a work in progress? And what would you like to see grow into this year?
Well, we're transitioning from this world of NIL into rev share. Now, they're kind of the same thing. It's a player being able to make money based on their name, image, and likeness. But it's moved into this revenue sharing model where the burden is now more on the institution to provide the resources to then pay the players. NIL is still a part of it. That's kind of sitting over here. And for some schools, it's equal. Like, everybody just saw this Texas stuff that came out, right? So I'm using rough numbers here, but let's say they have 17 million in rev share. That's institutional money that the institution makes that they're sharing with the player. But then they can still go raise 20 million NIL too, and then pay that money on top of their rev share checks. We're here. We live in the revenue share world. We don't have a strong NIL base. We'd love to grow that. You know, we'd love our local businesses to be part of that too. Like the way players can be compensated for what they do and for the good attention they bring to both the program, the institution, the city is, you know, business owners can say, you know what, I like Johnny. You know, Johnny represents my business well. I'm going to sign Johnny to an endorsement deal to do a commercial or do a print ad or do a social post or show up at my restaurant or my business and promote me, right? And as a professional athlete, I did that for years. I made a salary from my team, and then I made my off-field money by doing Pepsi ads or underwear ads or whatever they were, right? And it's the same thing for a college athlete. So they can get their salary, their money from the institution, but then our community can rally as well and say, you know what, I really like that Isaiah Jacobs, or man, that quarterback stands for everything that I believe in. Oh, by the way, he's gonna be a first-round pick too. So I wanna go get him. I'm a car dealership. I wanna do a billboard. I wanna give this kid a car. I wanna do a billboard. I wanna create attention for that kid. Like, that is something we need to grow here, because I don't think we're gonna have a lot of NIL resources to put on top of the rev share resources. I hope that, very rough, but that's the general way this is working.
You've been at this game, or have been a part of this game in all different phases.
Forever.
Yeah. Do you think there's still a value of getting a degree?
Yeah. We just finished the highest GPA in the history of UAB football. We had the fewest missed classes we've ever had. We had the fewest missed assignments, fewest Fs. I can go on and on and on. And this is where I think it's really important. If you are gonna, and this is so true in the NFL too, people always want to know about my NFL experiences, and here's one thing I learned. The better habits you have off the field, the more they'll translate on the field. Now, there's exceptions to that. But for the most part, you take a 53-man roster in the NFL, if you're a really good team, we went to the playoffs, won Super Bowls, whatever it was, you had the majority of your team had really good habits off the field, right? They paid their bills on time, right? They did all their personal things well. Well, guess what? That translated into their preparation for football and how they played on Sundays. That's academics in this world, is you use the progress towards degree, the goal of getting your degree, the habits it takes to get your degree, the habits it takes and the discipline it takes to be not just a go to school student, but a thriving student, and you push those habits and you make it really hard on them. And guess what? You see you filter over, they make better calls, they recognize the defense faster, they show up earlier, they work harder on their playbook, they train harder, they hydrate better, they're in the training room more. Why? Because they're teaching themselves to do stuff they don't want to do, even though it's the best thing to do. Our number one priority this offseason is choose best over feelings. I've been asked to speak all these things. I have one central theme: best over how you feel. When you let your feelings dictate your decisions, you are doomed. You must at some point say, you know what, this is best for me. I don't want to do it. I don't feel like doing it. I don't even see the reason for doing it, but I know it's best, so I'm going to do it. That's a degree for these college athletes. It's super important. It's the best thing they can do for their futures, and I don't care if they want to do it or not. They're going to do it, because then they choose to do that, to wake up and go to a class, to write a paper when they don't feel like it, to go to an academic tutoring session when they don't want to or they don't feel like they need it, to show up 45 minutes early to find a parking place to go to your academic session. I don't want to do any of those things, but you're gonna do them because they're best for you. And guess what? You stack up enough of those best habits, it's gonna show up out here.
You guys had a spring showcase instead of a spring game. A lot of teams all over the country followed that method. Do you think there's going to be no more spring games anymore?
It depends if they're pre or post portal. You know, like we did it 2 years ago for the same reasons everybody did it this year. It was pre-portal closing. We did not want some rando to come in through the gates with the cell phone and see our players. We didn't want our players shopping themselves, agents shopping themselves, schools poaching. That was 2 years ago's intent. This year, that was not an issue to me because our spring showcase was after the portal had closed. So it really wouldn't have mattered. They couldn't jump in the portal. I did it because we had 55 healthy bodies. You know, your rosters are so depleted after the December portal. You're trying to use the winter to put a roster together, but then some of those guys you're recruiting are coming off an ankle surgery, a shoulder surgery. We had 4 or 5 guys that were on the team last year that are still with us that had off-season surgeries that wouldn't be able to participate in spring. Like, there was a time I looked out and there was only 1 projected defensive starter practicing. You know, on offense, there were, 7 projected starters, 6 projected starters. So, you start having attrition throughout spring ball, and you really can't have a game. You can do a glorified practice, is what the showcase was. I've talked to Power 4 coaches that you all would know their names very well, and they've historic programs, and they're talking about how their best players, their best backup players, their best depth players are coming in June, which means they're freshmen. They have their starters that they're heavily invested in, that they've taken a ton of their resources to keep. Let's call that 30 players. Let's call it 35 players. So the top of their roster is very well compensated, very good. We feel like we can win with those. But then the next 35, which used to be your future depth, your future starters, your depth, your developmental squad, those guys are starters now at other Power 4 schools for these schools. So where do you get your depth? Well, you go poach us, you go poach the FCSs, you go poach the junior colleges, but really what you're doing is your high school recruiting classes that are coming in June, they're coming in to be the depth to those 35. So it's like, who's getting better at what? And do you want to risk your 35? So for their 35, it's our 15 or our 20. How much did I want Jalen Kitna to be at risk in these things? How much did I want Isaiah Jacobs get his body being beat up? How much do you want JD Morgan exposed to a pile in a practice and a tackling drill? I can go to the defensive players. You just don't want to expose them to too much risk when, you're really looking at a roster. I talked about the gold blue. We have 3 gold players and about 10 blue players. So you don't want to expose your 3 golds and your 10 blues. And then you have a bunch of greens, which are core starters, which are really good players, and they're going to win because of them, but you don't want to overwork them either. So if you're talking about the gold, blue, green format alone, I don't know what other teams do. It's an NFL model of doing it, but if you have 25 gold, blues, and greens, you only want them to get X amount of reps in the spring. You don't want to expose them to unnecessary risks, so now they can't practice in August and can't be at their best when you need to win football games.
You mentioned Jalen Kitna. Obviously, the quarterback room has been an interesting discussion for topics since everything. I feel like every time we come into fall camp, spring camp, the quarterbacks, we're going to go right for it. Yeah. What did you see from them in the spring, and are they the group now that could possibly take UAB and command the offense, show that leadership out there? With you being a Super Bowl winning quarterback, what have you seen from the quarterbacks?
I'm trying to be with everything. I'm trying to be very cautious on predictions or how good we could be or what our goals are. Not to be coy or sly with everybody, but because honestly, there's some things I just don't know. I know that what I just saw from Jalen Kitna looks like an NFL practice. I lived it. He's better than I ever was. So we'll just start right there. If a scout came in and said, how good is Jalen Kitna? I'm saying, well, I was the 6th pick of the draft and he's better than I was. So let's just start there. I worked with all these quarterbacks over the course of Elite 11, and the Tuas, the Lawrences, the Burrows, you name them, I was around them at Elite 11. He would be in the top 10 to 12 guys that I ever saw. He's very, very similar to Trevor Lawrence. Like if there's a comp that you're just looking at traits and size and athleticism and desire and competitiveness and processing, they're very similar. And he practiced at an incredibly high level. And he's just hungry to get better. Like it was never enough. He basically lived here. He didn't really have a life outside of these offices because he wasn't with me and Mort. He was on his own watching film. He was meeting with players. Like he took the next step as it relates to owning this offense and owning this football team. I thought his backups did a tremendous job. I thought Ryder Burton, who we got out of the portal, had a tremendous spring. Trace Campbell really showed some glimpses of improvement. He's a fantastic athlete, got more consistent. And then the youngins, Adrian and Nate did a really nice job as well. So we feel really good about how the quarterbacks practiced. Now again, live bullets are different. Jalen only has 8 career starts, and we saw the roller coaster of Jalen's play last year, and we can't have that and expect to win a lot of games. So he knows that he knew that this offseason, the way I framed it to him this offseason was, listen, you only have 8 career starts. You got to play this fall like you have 38 career starts. So how do we make up 30 starts without actual games? And the answer was pressure. What we collectively came through was we have to apply a ton of pressure to every part of your being so that the season feels easy, because that's what happens. You play a lot of games in college football as a quarterback. It's not you see the defenses more, you've run more plays, you've thrown more balls. You've become more accustomed to the immense amount of pressure that there is the bigger the games get. So we had to find a way to apply that type of pressure to him. We're still in the middle of that. So we feel like that's happened to this point, and he's responded very well. But he gets back here, I think today or tomorrow, and we're just gonna keep amping it up. Now he gets a break, he gets married. He's gonna go on a honeymoon, which is awesome. So he's gonna get a nice little break from that pressure, but he knows that's his only break. It is gonna be ratcheted to a level of pressure and intensity that I told his dad, who played in the league as long as I did, I said, me and you did not go through what he's about to go through. And just so your family knows, and you've entrusted me with your son, I'm gonna do something that I've never done. I've never done it this intense, but it's what's needed to bring out what he needs to show and what we need him to show this fall.
Did you give him any marriage tips?
Listen, we're 32 years into this thing. We'll take any tips necessary. No, we do. Jalen and I, it's become a really cool relationship. We know where to draw a line in the sand, and because I know his parents so well, I'm coach most of the time, but for about 2 hours a week, I'm friend, mentor, sounding board. We've talked about marriage. We've talked about faith. We've talked about just general things about growing and becoming a man. Talk about the adversity he's gone through. So it's been a special relationship. One that I wouldn't trade for. If he were to get banged up and not play the whole season for whatever it happens in football. I hope it doesn't happen to him. The time spent with him has been as rewarding as any time I've spent with a player.
Now with NIL, it's getting taken up to the executive branch. Coach Saban will be a part of the committee. Do you think that's a step in the right direction in order to control NIL? And will that maybe help your program when you're thinking about recruiting and the transfer portal?
I think anything that Coach Saban leans into will be better, right? Because he got to see every aspect of this evolution. He's not just one of the greatest, if not the greatest coach of all time. I think he's the wisest. He was super successful, but he's also extremely wise. So whatever he leans into and whatever counsel he brings, I think you could get 50 of us other Joes and we wouldn't have the wealth of wisdom and knowledge that the one man has. So that alone, I was like, yes, Coach, thank you for doing that. All I need is guardrails. All I need is boundaries, and all I need to know is where it is. I don't care where the goalpost is, just keep it stationary. I think, and that this is not just me speaking, this is every coach I've talked to. We actually don't care. Because we've been now in the wild, wild west. Like we've gone through moving from the East Coast to Montana and setting up a homestead and everybody trying to kill us on the way. I think we've been in the Wild West. Now just put the goalpost somewhere and say I don't care if it's a 24-yarder, a 38-yarder, a 52-yarder, or a 63-yarder. Just keep it still. Just know where I need the ball to go through. Because right now, this goalpost is going around 360 degrees because there's zero leadership. There's zero boundaries. There's zero guardrails. And how do you kick it? I have to kick it like a boomerang because the ball started here, but it's got to go there. So you're constantly changing every single day. What is the rule? Is there compliance? Oh, so now a coach in an SEC school can call my kid while he's in a meeting room in spring ball, not in the portal, and offer him $100,000? This is a coach. This is not an agent. This isn't a street agent. He's not in the portal, and there's no repercussions. Is the house, is it going to settle or is it not going to settle? Like we've built our whole lives around this thing settling. If it does settle, is the language we've been told on roster limitations, on releasing of players, on contract length, on contract restrictions, is that going to be true? Or are they going to drop a bomb on us in the first part of June and say, well, we talked about those things, but we're going to change it to this? Because that's what we've lived for 2.5 years. And just tell me what it is. Just somebody tell me what it is. The information I'm getting from people that I'm lucky have large networks that are in the belly of the beast, that nobody knows they're telling me these things because they're predicting what most likely will happen so that I can make decisions on what most likely will happen. But I don't know if this person actually knows. Like that's the world we're living in. How about these teams that wrote NIL contracts that are transitioning into rev share contracts, but they're transitioning post-portal? So the player is expecting one thing, but any lawyer can blow that thing up post-portal, and now that player's held to a different thing that him and his agent agreed to back in December. Again, no complaints. I'm just saying, you asked me the question, what would I do? Just tell me where the flipping goalpost is. Tell me what the rules are. By nature, I'm a rule follower. I'm a compliant person. I'll be compliant if there is such thing as a rule. Give me a rule. Give me a number, give me a rule, give me a contract length, give me boundaries, give me guardrails, and we'll stay in them, and we'll find a way to win within those. But right now, there's none of that.
Next time we'll talk to you, we're about to head into fall camp, into year 3. There's been a lot of urgency from fans. There's been a lot of reaction from fans. There's been a lot of reactions from the athletic department. What do you think the biggest misconception about this program is heading into year 3, with the biggest misconception about you as a coach?
I don't know. You know, I've always learned that where there's criticism, there's usually truth. You know, so I'm not one that gets defensive on criticism. I've listened. I've listened to my admin. I've listened to my coaches. I've listened to fans. I've listened to alumni. And instead of being defensive about it, I've owned it. And I've said, okay, where can I get better? If there's some truth, now it's not all truth because they don't know the whole story, but there's probably partial truths, and I've had to look close in the mirror at those things, and I've made changes around those. I don't know how to answer that, except I made a promise in my press conference. You'll get the very best of me, however long I'm here. I want to be here for 15, 20 years, but you'll get every ounce of me. I think if you went and interviewed my family and you went and interviewed the people close to me, my networks, my mentors and all that, they would all say UAB is getting everything he has. He is pouring out everything he has. That's what I'll continue to do. What I'm pouring out needs to get better. I'm the first that will admit that. And I think it is. I think if you asked again the people in the building, is it better now than it was? They would all say yes. I think the new ones that have come in that didn't have a reference point, they have told me, wow, this is really well done. Like, we have a great plan, we have great processes, we have great standards. Like, this should work. Based on our experience in football, this should work. But we gotta go prove it. Like, we got to go prove it come the season that the labor is not in vain, you know, and, you know, working hard is not heroic. Working hard on the right things, I think, is what you're trying to accomplish, and I'm trying to work incredibly hard on the right things.
Coach, we always appreciate you and your honesty. Thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thanks for the time.